Hello, allies. I'm Steven Bushong with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. As you might guess, I love interviewing people. This job is a license for curiosity. It's like becoming immersed in a book, only the character is right in front of you and you can ask them almost anything. Today is an extra special day because I'm joined by an amazing woman who has a truly extraordinary story. In fact, it'll soon be a book authored by a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist and has already been featured in Colorado TV, radio, and newspapers. Karissa Rund, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to get right to the point because there's a lot to cover. While you may be battling colorectal cancer right now, you are already the definition of a survivor. You lost your mom at age 11 to breast cancer. At 14, you survived the Columbine High School shooting, in part because a nearby pipe bomb failed to detonate. And then after marrying your high school sweetheart, he was killed in action in Iraq. You moved to DC and built an incredibly successful career. You married again, moved back to your home state of Colorado, just outside of Denver, if I remember correctly. And now you're battling stage 4 colorectal cancer with mets to your lungs. But that's not all. Despite these hardships, you are on a quest to seek meaning through theology school to understand why all of this has happened and how we can live with less fear despite the challenges we face. So that's the big setup. But after all of this and knowing all this about you, I'm impressed that you can get out of bed in the morning. So what inspires you to do that?
Hope. There's always hope. I believe that. I've seen it in my life. I believe that I'm here for a reason, and that reason is to bring light to people in their darkest moments, to use those experiences that I've had in the dark, to help people see that there is hope no matter what. And I believe that the ultimate hope is in God, and that He created me with this breath to be able to tell this story. So that's my mission, is to use the hope that I found to help other people and to show them that there is hope in their lives no matter what they're going through, how hard it is, how much pain they're in, how afraid they are.
Okay. Breast cancer, the cancer that took your mom, is a popular cancer, as some people say, receiving a lot more attention than colorectal cancer does. A lot of that has to do with the stigma associated with this disease. But CRC remains the second leading cancer killer in the United States. And with young onset colorectal cancer on the rise, more young kids are losing a parent, just like you did when you were 11 years old. So how did losing your mom make you feel? And how do you think you coped with it so well as a child, becoming the person you are today? And maybe you didn't cope with it well as a child.
I'm not sure in a way there is a good way to handle it or to handle it well. For me, it was a very, very long process. But when my mom died, I lost my anchor in my life. That's what your mom is when you're a child. And it was tremendously painful, as you can imagine. It still has ripple effects 20 years later in my life. But I do remember in the moments after she died thinking to myself that I had to do better, that she couldn't be the reason that I unraveled, that if she could look down on me from heaven, she needed to see that I was better because of what happened, and that I didn't essentially become a worse person, a bitter person, an angry person, an unproductive person. So it just became this fire inside of me. So I knew at 11 years old that losing her would make or break me. So I decided very firmly at that age that it would make me. And that I consider to be the beginning in some ways of my spiritual quest.
A mere 3 years after losing your mom, you're a freshman at Columbine High School when 2 schoolmates entered the building and murdered 12 students and a teacher. They nearly killed you too. So I'm wondering, how did this horrible experience change your life in the years that followed?
I think the biggest thing was actually gratitude. And I know that might sound strange because it's such a horrible experience and you might think, why me? And I had a little bit of that thought when I was that age, but at the same time, I also knew that the world had a lot of bad in it already. So I wasn't, I suppose, as surprised, but, Columbine taught me that, that life is not promised or guaranteed. And I think that can actually be a really good realization to get to. Because it gives you a sense of like the zest for life and really living as fully as you possibly can. And it gave me this firm sense also that I am here for a reason. That pipe bomb could have gone off. I would have been obliterated along with hundreds of other kids, but I wasn't. And so that tells me that I'm absolutely here for a purpose. And when you think about it, as I did more and more when I got older, I realized we all have that groundedness, that truth, that we're all here for a reason. We're all created for a reason. None of us were an accident. We all have a reason for being. So that gratitude was huge. And then also, right after the shooting, there was just an outpouring of love from people all over the world. So I learned from that although people can choose tremendous evil, and that's what these shooters did, there are more people all around the world every day who are choosing to do good and be good. And so I believe that goodness and love is a more powerful force in the world. They are much more powerful forces in the world than evil and hate.
Certainly true. And we see goodness every day at the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. So
that's great.
I know that to be true personally.
Mm-hmm.
Another good thing that came out of Columbine was your first love, Greg, who you married.
Yeah.
Then September 11th happened and he went to war. He was in the Army, right?
He was in the Marine Corps.
He was in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And when you found out he died there, I'm sure you were devastated. For the cancer community, though, our audience, after 3 horrific experiences in life by the age of 19, you still did not give up. So 2-part question. What is it like to lose someone in war? And is it like losing someone to cancer?
Well, a lot of cancer stories are very different. My mom's cancer story was a very long, hard, slow battle. And so it was very, very different to lose her over the course of 7 years when I was a child, and obviously the mother-daughter relationship. And then years later to lose my husband. 1 minute he was alive and the next minute he wasn't. So there was a huge difference in the sense that one was very sudden. At the same time, I would say when I was a little girl, I was very surprised that she actually passed away. I was told by a lot of people that she would make it. So, without getting on too much of a tangent, for me, the way I've chosen to live with cancer is to be very open and honest with what I'm dealing with and what might happen. And I just want people to be prepared and not, there's no way to be like fully prepared, right? Death is always going to be violating. But just so that people are like as prepared as they can be or thinking through what they need to say and do. I was never really given that opportunity. And the other thing I would say is that when my husband died, it was a very different spiritual questioning that happened. One of my first thoughts was like, all right, well, God hates me. This is very clear. He probably made me to toy with me and screw up my life and laugh about it. And, I just didn't sleep most nights more than 2 or 3 hours. My shirt would be wet from all the tears. I didn't care anymore. I didn't even stop them. Right. I mean, I was in just total agony. And I got to the point where I was yelling at God. I was so angry. And like at my very core, I was angry. But over time, I realized that God had suffered too, that he came as a person who also suffered greatly, who also experienced loss, that he was sorry about what happened, that he didn't want there to be death in the world. It was not his design, and that he mourned with me. So all these like things that I learned, and just kind of going on this quest and realizing for myself that that God was real, and he brought me back, but it took many, many years.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I want to talk about what you're experiencing now, which is colorectal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
When were you first diagnosed with this disease?
Gosh, I'm almost 5 years in, and 5 years alive is pretty great considering 8% chance of survival. So November 2015.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Stage 4, they found it when I'd already spread to a couple different sites. I was totally blocking my colon.
and then you've had more than one recurrence since then too, right?
Yeah, I've had quite a few. I've literally lost track. I'd have to count. I think it's 5 or 6. I've had 8 surgeries, 6 months of chemo, clinical trial that gave me a shot, like this horrible shot contraption that also electrocuted me at the same time. And it didn't work, but that's okay. I was glad that I tried it and was part of that community that's working to find a cure, and kind of did my part. So yeah, that's where I'm at with cancer. I have a scan coming up in 2 weeks, and as always, hopeful about that, but been able, I think, with COVID to release actually some of the fear of dying.
Well, we wish you the best on your upcoming scan.
Thanks.
And you brought up chemo.
Yeah.
There's a special story tied to chemotherapy, right?
Yes. So I was 6 months into dating when I got diagnosed with cancer. And then this sweet man asked me to marry him in the middle of chemo. And my hands were all like discolored, from FOLFOX, and I was shaking because of, the neuropathy, and it was cold. And it was April. It was cold to me because of going through chemo. And what's I think especially sweet and cool about my love story, or this love story, is that I actually ended up marrying my husband's brother. We started dating about 10 years after my husband died, 10 or 11 years. And we're going into 4 years of marriage now. So it's really cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we all wish you well, and we hope and we pray for a cure. But I think most people, the very least me, would be really fearful about what comes next. If we were in this situation, and many of our viewers are, and I know that they do experience fear, but I feel like you've recognized that fear, and instead of succumbing to it, you are studying it, figuring out how to live better with it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I know that in fear and worry, those aren't the ways we were designed to live, but it's such a present part of our reality a lot of times. So I've been looking at the science, philosophy, theology, as I've been, on this quest to figure out how this all works, right? And what I can do to help myself, and hopefully to help others as I learn more. And I know, unfortunately, a lot of people in the cancer and colon cancer community have experienced this. I've experienced this for years now. But I've gotten to a different point now where COVID brought me to a place of a lot of fear, especially at the very beginning. There's not going to be enough ventilators. And if you have a pre-existing condition, you're not getting one. So I pictured myself hyperventilating, choking, not being able to breathe in a hospital hallway, and not being given any help. And so that brought me into a place that I realized now I needed to be. It pushed me to this extreme fear where I really had to face the idea of dying and what that would look like. And so it was well, what can I control? That was a big part. What can I control? And what can't I control? And so, I'm taking those precautions, things like meditation, deep breathing, and journaling. Those all help me, but I realize like what really heals me is this deeper hope and consolation that I'm learning through my theology and philosophy studies, that there is a God who will heal our suffering, either now or in the next life, that we'll be made whole again, and that I'll be able to understand what it's like to be whole for the first time ever, like even in a more a deeper way than I experienced even before cancer. So that's where I'm putting my hope. That's also where I put my anxiety when I have that, and my fear. And through my philosophy and theology and history studies, I've also learned that, a lot of cultures consider suffering to be necessary as part of a good life, and that without suffering, you can't actually lead a good, full, fruitful life. So that's been fascinating. That's just one little thing that I'm learning and that I've been meditating on and thinking about a lot. So I just feel a lot of comfort and hope in what I'm learning through my faith and through my studies. And I hope that I can give that hope away.
Very good. I think we look forward to hearing more from you on those
Thanks.
topics. I do want to conclude the interview with a view of your future. What's on the horizon for you?
Well, I started a social impact organization. So I want to use this breath, every moment that I have, to let people know that hope has a name, that God is real, and that peace is possible, truly possible, even in your extreme moments of pain, even when you're suffering. There's still joy to be found. And practically this means that I'm speaking, I'm writing, and I'm using my voice in culture to be a voice for hope. And I believe that it really is the best way to use your life, is to serve other people. So I feel like it's a huge honor. So I don't know how much time I have left. None of us do, but some of us, might have a little more pressure than others. So I'm just living my life day to day, appreciating the moments that I do have and using it the best I can to help other people and bringing them hope. So, I'd love to do any virtual things or talk to anyone in the community, any virtual events. I just really want to be able to share with people.
All right. Well, Karissa Rund, we appreciate your time spent with us today, and we appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. I appreciate that. All right. Yes, you're welcome. Take care.
Thank you.